Shelling is reported from several places in eastern Ukraine despite the official ceasefire between government forces and pro-Russia rebels. Artillery fire could be heard in the region's biggest city, Donetsk, where the truce had been observed so far. Ukrainian military sources say there has also been shelling in the direction of the port city of Mariupol. The fighting comes as Russia, Ukraine, France, and Germany held further talks over the phone. Most of the renewed fighting in rebel-held Donetsk appears to be in the north of the city towards the airport. The BBC's Ian Pannell, who is in Donetsk, says it sounds like shells are fired in both directions, although that cannot be verified. Further south, a spokesman for the Ukrainian government forces said rebel units had attacked the village of Shirokyne, killing one soldier, with shells also fired towards Mariupol. The deputy head of the OSCE mission on the ground also reported more shelling near the embattled town of Debaltseve, which the mission was not able to reach. Fighting there had continued throughout the ceasefire and on Thursday prompted talks over the phone between the leaders of Russia, Ukraine, France, and Germany, who had negotiated the ceasefire deal in Minsk last week. The French presidency said afterwards the leaders called for the implementation of the full package of measures agreed in Minsk, including a full ceasefire, withdrawal of heavy weapons and the release of prisoners. A statement issued by the Kremlin stressed the need to ensure a ceasefire and said all sides were ready to support the work of the OSCE mission in Ukraine. After the withdrawal of Ukrainian government forces from Debaltseve on Wednesday, Ukraine's President Petro Poroshenko had called for an unmandated peacekeeping force to enforce the ceasefire. But Russia's UN ambassador Vitaly Churkin denounced the call for the deployment of peacekeepers in eastern Ukraine as a destructive move. It raises suspicions that he wants to destroy the Minsk Accords, Mr. Churkin said. And the leadership of the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic described the call for peacekeepers as a violation of the Minsk Accords. On his website, Mr. Poroshenko had suggested a police mission by the European Union would be the best format for an unmandated peacekeeping operation. It would help guarantee security in a situation where the promise of peace is not being kept, he told an emergency meeting of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council. Mr. Poroshenko had described the withdrawal from Debaltseve as organized but admitted at least 6 soldiers had been killed and more than 100 wounded. At least 80 are reported missing. Rebel spokesman Eduard Basurin said the town was now completely under the control of the separatists, with just scattered pockets of resistance that were being neutralized. He claimed that more than 300 government soldiers had been taken prisoner. Ukraine's government admitted some troops were being held. Minsk Agreement, key points. Ceasefire from 12:01 on February 15. 22:01 GMT February 14. Heavy weapons to be withdrawn, beginning on February 16 and completed in 2 weeks, beyond a buffer zone behind the current front line for Ukrainian forces and behind the September front line for separatist forces. All prisoners to be released, amnesty for those involved in fighting. Withdrawal of all foreign troops and weapons from Ukrainian territory. Disarmament of all illegal groups. Ukraine to allow resumption of normal life in rebel areas, by lifting restrictions. Constitutional reform to enable decentralization for rebel regions by the end of 2015. Ukraine to control border with Russia if conditions met by the end of 2015.